if Doctor, you're ready, I would like for you to introduce yourself, a little bit about your background, so people can get to know you. And I know Doctor likes to use Swahili. Just feel free to use Swahili. Yeah, so the floor is yours, Dr. Minja.
Asante sana Aika. That's wonderful. I'm just getting set up here, niko kazini. So, but you have a wonderful audience, and I hope that we can have a nice little chat here. I don't know, maybe they can put in the chat, are there a lot of Swahili speakers? I can go either way, but yeah. I do feel funny if I'm here on the call speaking in English and getting translated in Swahili when I'm a native Swahili speaker. So depending on the audience, I can go either way.
Actually, I'll prefer you to use Swahili. I'm one of you, like. Okay. If I have an option, either Swahili, English, I'll go with Swahili as my native. So go ahead with Swahili and then we'll do the English part. Thank you.
I'm not sure. Jamani, asanteni sana. And how much time do I have?
Oh, you have plenty of time. So now it's 1:46 here in Oregon. Okay. And we are going to have you for up to 2:50.
Okay. So sawa, hamna shida. So I'll try to speak and nitajaribu kuongea kwa labda nusu saa. And then kama watu wana maswali ya nyongeza, hamna shida, tunaweza tukaongea tu kwa kirefu. And I was just going to warn you, niko kazini na sina charger, so if my video acts up, I will just go upstairs and I can speak through the mic, so I should be okay. So if I get into that situation, I will let you know. Jamani, asanteni sana kwa kujiunga nasi leo kuongelea issue ya COVID-19, hasa hususan chanjo za COVID-19. Binafsi ni daktari huko Atlanta, nafanya mambo ya radiolojia, ni mzaliwa wa Tanzania. Najivunia sana Kiswahili na huwa napenda sana kuongelea kitu cha COVID kwa Kiswahili ili kuhakikisha kwamba watu wetu wana taarifa sahihi kuhusu ugonjwa wa COVID-19 pamoja na chanjo. Issue ya chanjo imekuwa ina utata mwingi sana, hasa katika jamii zetu za Kiafrika na jamii za Wamarekani weusi. Kama mnavyojua hapo awali, ugonjwa ulipovuma mwaka jana mnamo Machi ya 2020, mamia na maelfu ya watu walikufa, na kwa kiasi kikubwa waliofariki na ugonjwa huu walikuwa ni watu weusi na watu wa
Sorry, Dr. Frank, sorry to interrupt you. So I got this text. Our interpreter, the French interpreters, they actually don't speak Swahili.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm not sure. I'm sorry. That's fine. But we have a Swahili interpreter?
Yes, we do have a Swahili interpreter. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So switching gears. I'm here. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and I like to talk about COVID-19, especially for our community of Africans and also African Americans in general. As I was saying, last year when the COVID pandemic first hit the United States in March of 2020, we saw that the majority of people affected were actually people of color, and meaning like, African Americans, Latino Americans, Mexican Americans, and so forth. Basically, non-white Americans were the vast majority of those who were affected. Not only affected by meaning they got infected with the disease, the large proportion of them died. So the rate of deaths was like something staggering, something like 60% of severe cases in New York versus like something like 30% for like white. So the numbers were just staggering. It's like almost in an order of double. So meaning if you are a person of color and you get COVID-19 in the United States in the early part of the pandemic, you are almost twice as likely to die from the disease. And you are also very likely to get the severe form of disease. At that time, I used to live in Connecticut, New Haven. New Haven is a larger urban center. And one statistic that really kind of shocked me during that time was that actually the rate of infection in New Haven was 50 times the surrounding areas. Meaning, if you go to a grocery store in New Haven, you're 50 times more likely to basically meet or get exposed to somebody with COVID-19 compared to if you drove 30 minutes outside New Haven. And I am sure Portland and the Northwest is just like the rest of America, that there are going to be pockets where the immigrants live, where the minorities live, where typically these areas have a low socioeconomic status. And so because of that, I am pretty sure the same disparities probably exist in the Portland area as they do exist all over America. This is nothing to do with Connecticut, Atlanta, Georgia, Portland. It's an American thing given our history of disparities and racism and all of that. Now, fast forward to December 2020, when we suddenly have these miraculous vaccines that literally have a 95% effectiveness against the severe form of COVID. And now remember, the vaccines are not against you getting infected by COVID. They are protecting you from the severe form of COVID. As we know, the vast majority of patients who actually get infected with COVID or test positive for COVID get very mild symptoms. But what we are worried about is the severe form of the disease. Now, many of you grew up in East Africa and understand malaria. Everybody gets malaria. Malaria is not a big deal. It's kind of like, yeah, you get malaria, you're going to have your anti-malaria. But there is a severe form of malaria. It's called cerebral malaria. If you get cerebral malaria, your mortality is almost above 50%. Okay? And I know personally, my classmates who've had severe malaria, and they don't make it, right? Because basically you're going to end up in the ICU, and our ICUs are not capable of handling severe malaria. So think of COVID in the same way, whereas we have the vast majority of the disease. Yes, you will take symptomatic medications, you'll be fine. But if you get the severe form, you have a very high likelihood of dying. Okay, so we're not talking about just disability. We're talking about you have a high likelihood of dying. So the vaccines prevent that. So they prevent you from getting the severe form of the disease. So as we were saying, in December, when this great news of the vaccine came out, guess what? Our communities were the first ones who were up in arms against the vaccine. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, what is wrong with this picture? We are the ones who are most likely to die from this disease, but we are the most vocal against getting vaccinated. And this basically, it wasn't even to say, Kwamba, it's health, Kwamba, it's only like people, let's say, who are non-educated or what. This is across the spectrum, talking educated African-Americans, healthcare African-Americans, across the spectrum, it reproduces itself. I'll tell you, actually, even in our hospital, something like vaccine acceptance was 70% for white healthcare workers versus less than 30% for African-American healthcare workers. So we have the same education, but we have a very big mistrust of the healthcare system. Now, I'm not trying to downplay the mistrust. There's a lot of history that justifies why that is the case, but I'm just here to tell you that we can practically demystify all of those fears you have. One, I've had both doses. I've had the Pfizer vaccine, and then 3 weeks later, I had the second dose. I must say the first dose was no problem. It's a breeze. I didn't even feel anything. The second dose, you are going to feel tired. Your muscles are going to ache. Why? It's because your body already recognizes that vaccine. So it's sort of like you're boosting it, right? So it's actually, what I say is like, when you have symptoms on your second dose, it's actually telling you that your body is recognizing what it's been exposed to. It's actually a way of telling you your immune system is working. But that being said, even if you don't have a reaction, it doesn't mean the immune system is not working. But basically, the point is the vast majority of people may have symptoms on the second dose, but the symptoms are mild. And within 2 days, those symptoms disappear. The recent data that was published, 18 million doses, no deaths, zero. We're talking 0 deaths. Of 18 million people who've had these vaccinations being followed, something like less than 20 had a severe allergic reaction. So that's another thing people talk about. You may get a severe allergic reaction. Yes, like anything else, a certain part of our population can be allergic to foreign materials. So that is not a surprise. But just to give you the rate of the safety profile, yani 1 in a million Okay, you're talking 1 in a million person is going to have the anaphylactic reaction. But that also happens within 15 minutes of the vaccination. So what's happening when you get vaccinated, you have to wait around for 15 to 30 minutes before they let you go. So if you're going to have a reaction, it's going to happen right there. And usually you're being vaccinated in an area where there are a ton of like medical professionals. So of these 18 million, not a single person has died. Literally, like this data is like almost like you want to kind of like, you want to think it's like made up, but it's like America itself has something like 60 million people have been vaccinated. In the beginning with all these stories, blah, blah, blah. Somebody, you know, had a vaccine and fell down. Somebody had this and all these sort of sensational things about people trying to get a little bit more attention. But it's not, hasn't really panned out. Basically, as more and more people get vaccinated, all of that like nonsense misinformation is proving to be basically nonsense, for lack of a better word. Now, the best news is actually coming from Israel. So Israel has the highest number, a proportion of its population that's been vaccinated. Something like 50% of their population is approaching like vaccination. And they've basically seen a dramatic drop in severe COVID cases. I mean, what other data do you need to kind of like, you know, go for this? Okay, so that's the sort of like, you know, my pitch for it. And I'm hoping that as Americans have more and more access to vaccinations, and I am very glad that there's a lot of talk about equity, but if we don't go for the vaccine, all of their efforts are nothing. If they bring it to your doorstep and you refuse it, we'll just wait for you in the ICU when you have your severe COVID. I mean, it's like, which one is it? We're going to bring the vaccine to you. If you refuse to get it, then we'll just wait for you when you have the severe COVID. And then in which case, it's really not a joke, because not only can you get the severe COVID, we are seeing more and more young people getting massive strokes. Okay, COVID causes a lot of blood clots. So the other sad thing is we see 40, 50, 30-year-olds getting these massive strokes. So you get a massive stroke, what are you gonna do? You're not gonna be able to go to your regular job. So you may be alive, but now you are dependent. Now your family has to take care of you. So it's again, another double whammy. I mean, almost somebody says like, you know, getting a stroke is worse than dying, because when you get a stroke, you're becoming a burden to society. You know, if you pass away, then you know what, the society is going to keep moving. But if you get a massive stroke, suddenly your loved one cannot work. So you have two people cannot work because now you have this like massive stroke. So I am here to basically offer any support you may need to reassure you that the vaccine is safe. I have taken the vaccine myself. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. The most recent one that's sort of like, you know, still floating around is, could the vaccine change your DNA, which is a whole nother like level? No, this vaccine technology is not going to go and change your DNA. It doesn't even get into the part of your cell that houses the DNA. So the fact that an mRNA vaccine may change your DNA is complete, again, in the realm of nonsense, is not going to happen. Is the vaccine safe for pregnant patients? The answer is absolutely yes. And I just recognize that patients who are pregnant are actually more prone to get the severe form of COVID. And if you're pregnant and you get severe COVID, guess what? Now you're going to risk the mother and the baby basically passing away from COVID. So it's a serious stuff. But again, I think I enjoy more answering questions that people may have. As you can see, I'm very passionate about the COVID vaccine. My own country is having some troubles accepting vaccines in general. But I think we're going to get there with just the education. And as they see more and more countries getting a protection from the vaccine, and thankfully the vaccine is also active against the new variants that we've seen around from the United Kingdom and South Africa. So far we're doing good, but we're still in a race against the next deadly form of the virus that may indeed challenge the vaccine, in which case we may need another booster dose. So Haika, I would like to stop there and maybe have the interpreters do the interpretation, and maybe we can move into the Q&A. Thank you.
Dr. Franks, thank you so much. I have several requests here. People are suggesting you should switch to the Swahili as well, since you are more passionate about talking.
Well, nanipa kazi mbili.
Your own Tanzanian people wants you to speak.
Oh my God, okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, Yani, you want me to start from scratch? No, I think maybe
no,
we
just
do it
summarize.
this way.
Just summarize.
Unanipa kazi kidogo, but I think why don't we do it this way? Why don't we have the French guys do the translation,
okay.
and then I can do a summary, and then we can go into Q&A. Waambie waulize maswali, so anataka tu kuenjoy mimi naongea.
Unawajua kina nani eh?
Nawajua Tanzania wangu, nawajua. Watu wangu nawajua.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Dr. Kokovi, if you're ready, can you translate in French, please?
He's mute.
Yeah, we cannot hear you. You're muted.
Maybe Mama
Okay,
Lucy.
Mama Lucy, if you're ready, or Mama Teresa, if you feel like confident to do it.
Non, je peux aller.
All right.
Ok. Oui, on a écouté Dr. Frank. L'autre nom, c'est Minja. Si je prononce mal, je m'excuse. Il vit à Atlanta et il est originaire de Tanzanie, Atlanta, Georgia. Et là-bas, il travaille pour les Africains et pour les Noirs américains aussi. Alors, il a parlé du vaccin, du problème de COVID qui est intervenu dans notre pays au mois de mars passé et qui a affecté beaucoup de gens. Il a parlé qu'il était vraiment très content de ce vaccin, qu'on appelle un vaccin miraculeux, dont les gens ont commencé à parler à partir de décembre 2020. Il a donné un peu les statistiques en pourcentage pour comparer comment les Noirs, les gens de couleur, que ce soit ceux qui ne sont pas tellement de blancs totalement, la manière dont ils sont affectés par la maladie et ils sont sujets de mourir facilement. Il a parlé que les gens de couleur sont vraiment, quand la maladie avait commencé, ils étaient attaqués même jusqu'à 65%. Il a donné l'exemple de notre state de Connecticut. Là, il a fait un peu les observations. Il a parlé que vraiment, le risque d'infection était très grave, 15 fois dans la ville de New Haven. Et les gens étaient beaucoup exposés à ça. Alors, il a encore parlé que le vaccin en soi ne guérit pas, mais il protège. Je m'excuse. Je dois prendre ma note. Le vaccin ne guérit pas, mais le vaccin nous protège.
Est-ce que tu...
OK. Allez-y, s'il vous plaît. Est-ce que vous m'entendez? Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, je vous attends.
Je peux continuer?
Absolument.
OK. Alors, il a parlé un peu du vaccin. Il a dit que le vaccin en soi n'est pas, disons, le remède au virus, mais c'est un moyen disons, de prévenir les infections sévères qui peuvent arriver dans l'avenir, dans la vie des gens. Il a comparé avec la manière dont la malaria attaque. Quand ça attaque d'une manière sévère, parfois les gens se retrouvent dans les émergences. Alors, il a dit que quand les gens ne se font pas vacciner et quand la maladie changera de forme, où ça deviendra sévère, vraiment, on aura beaucoup de cas de personnes qui se retrouveront dans les émergences. Parfois, les autres peuvent mourir. Alors, il a dit qu'il ne comprend pas que la communauté des Noirs ou bien de nos frères, disons, qui ont la couleur, étaient les plus qui étaient, disons, infectés. Et maintenant, disons, quand le vaccin est apparu, la statistique est que 75% il a parlé de ses collègues, je pense, ses collègues dans le domaine médical. 75% des collègues qui sont blancs ont accepté le vaccin, mais 13% de nos frères qui sont les Africains, bien les gens de couleur, ils ont vraiment résisté. Ils ne veulent pas prendre le vaccin. Il a encore ajouté, il a dit, nous sommes là pour encourager les gens et puis les supporter parce que nous-mêmes, nous avons déjà pris ce vaccin. Il a dit que le vaccin, quand les gens le prennent, la première dose, ça n'affecte pas beaucoup. Mais la deuxième dose, beaucoup de gens ressentent des réactions ou bien des malaises. Et parfois, ils ont peur, mais il les encourage que ces malaises-là, c'est juste parce que le corps doit lutter contre, ce qu'on a mis dans, disons, la réaction normale du corps qui reçoit quand même quelque chose qui est étranger. Comme tous les vaccins, ça, parfois, nous avons des réactions comme ça. Mais après 2 jours, tout passe bien. Alors, il a encore donné aussi des statistiques en disant que sur 1000 personnes vaccinées, parfois, on peut avoir un seul cas d'une personne qui peut avoir des réactions sévères, même parfois même. Il a donné l'exemple d'Israël, qui est le pays Israël. On a vacciné à peu près 50% de gens et même ils ont remarqué que même le cas, disons, de COVID a vraiment disparu. Pas totalement disparu, mais a vraiment été vraiment réduit et il y a l'espoir que le pays va un peu respirer. Il a parlé aussi de son propre pays, la Tanzanie. Je ne connais pas beaucoup ce qui se passe en Tanzanie, mais il a un peu frôlé. Il a dit qu'en Tanzanie, ils sont en train aussi de travailler pour encourager les gens de prendre le vaccin. Et il y a aussi une question que les gens se posent. Est-ce que dans le vaccin, n'y a-t-il pas la molécule de DNA qui sera affectée? Il dit non, le vaccin ne touche pas au changement de DNA. Il y a aussi une question que beaucoup de gens se posent. Est-ce que les femmes qui sont enceintes peuvent recevoir le vaccin? Il a dit non, il n'y a pas de question. Ce n'est pas un problème. Une femme qui est enceinte peut prendre le vaccin parce que quand la situation sera sévère, on pourra avoir le problème avec la maman et puis même avec l'enfant, même le fœtus qui est dans le sein de la maman. Je pense que c'est ça. Il a parlé un peu de Tanzanie. Je pense qu'ils ont des projets pour encourager les bien-aimés qui sont dans ce pays-là pour qu'ils puissent prendre le vaccin. C'est ce que j'ai un peu pris comme, disons en bref, ce que le docteur a parlé à propos de son exposé. Merci.
Merci, Mama Lucy.
Merci beaucoup, maman.
All right, doctor.
Asante sana, Mama Lucy. That was excellent. My French is not so good.
No, thank you.
Thank you. But I could catch a few things. I think you transmitted exactly what we were trying to get across. So that's really great. I've seen one question here about the pregnancy. So I'm going to try and talk to it in both English and Swahili. Yeah, so there are a couple of things here. One, the risk of this vaccine, I think the closest thing that can help you understand is a flu shot. Okay, really, given now that more than 50 million Americans have had this vaccine with very minimal severe reactions, I think the risk is about the risk that we experience when you take the flu shot. So as a general rule, there's always a risk, okay? So this is the thing, we need to talk about risk because some people say, hey, 50 million people have taken the vaccine, a few of them have died. Well, if you're dealing with 50 million people, there's a good chance a few are going to die in the next couple of months. I mean, it just stands to chance. The vaccine is not against death. Okay, it's not a if you take 2 doses of the vaccine, you're not going to ever die. That is right. So the risk is never going to be if I take this vaccine, I'm never going to die. And the risk can never be 0. But you're taking a risk the risk is against getting severe COVID. And you're getting a 95% chance you're not going to get severe COVID. That is what the vaccine is offering you. If you're not pregnant. Now, and 2, that has nothing, so far we have no data to show it deals with infertility, it's going to prevent pregnancy. It's got nothing to do with any of that. But if you're already either in the process of getting pregnant or in the process of undergoing infertility treatment, it's even more important to protect yourself against severe COVID, because most of the time, all of those medications you're taking are going to mess up with the immune system. So you probably want the protection more than anything else. So it's actually the other way. If you're pregnant, you should be even more concerned that you want to protect yourself so you don't have a situation whereby you're getting severe COVID and you're pregnant, and now you're threatening your life and your kid's life. So this is that. So let me talk about this kwa Kiswahili pia, kwamba kuna habari nyingi sana ikija kwenye mambo ya chanjo kuhusu ujauzito na chanjo. Na hii ni kwa sababu kumekuwa kidogo hapo awali kulikuwa na majaribio ya chanjo ambayo ilipelekea kidogo kuleta hizo sintofahamu za watu wanachanjwa kama jinsi ya kuzuia uzazi. Okay? Kwa hiyo katika nchi zetu za Afrika kuna imani kubwa sana kwamba watu wanachanjwa kwamba ni mpango mahususi wa serikali wa kujaribu kudhibiti vizazi vya watu wasiweze kuzaa. Na hiyo haina ukweli wowote, lakini ndio ni kitu ambacho kinatumika kwa kiasi kikubwa kuwaandaa watu. So hivyo basi hizi chanjo za COVID-19 zilipotokea, huo uvumi pia ukaanza kusema bwana, hizo chanjo wanaweka na kwanza wanataka nyie wa Marekani weusi na Afrika mzichukue ili waweze kudhibiti population zenu, yani nyie msiweze kuzaana sana. Ndio maana tunataka watu wote minority kwanza mpigwe chanjo kama majaribio, alafu tujaribu kuwadhibiti. Again, ni uvumi tu ambao unaendelea na kwa kiasi kikubwa hauna maana yote. Sasa cha msingi cha kuelewa ni hivi, ni kwamba wenye ujauzito wana uwezekano mkubwa zaidi wa kuambukizwa COVID kali. Na wanapopata COVID kali wanahatarisha maisha ya mama na maisha ya mtoto. Okay? Kwa hiyo wewe kama unataka kuwa mjamzito ama tayari ni mjamzito, wewe unatakiwa kwanza uichangamkie chanjo, kwa sababu wewe una uwezekano mkubwa zaidi kupata COVID kali, na ukipata COVID kali unapata complication, sababu COVID inapelekea damu kuganda, na mara nyingi mama wajawazito tayari damu yao ni rahisi zaidi kuganda. Kwa hiyo kupata stroke na nini ni rahisi zaidi kwa mama wajawazito. Na pia kwa kina mama ambao labda wanapitia katika matibabu ya kujaribu kupata ujauzito kwa maana in vitro fertilization, pia katika matibabu haya yana mahormone mengi sana ambayo huwa yanachangia damu kuganda kwa urahisi zaidi. Kwa hiyo endapo unapitia kwenye in vitro fertilization, I would actually suggest upate hiyo chanjo ili uzuie uwezekano wa kupata COVID-19. Na COVID-19 kali, kikubwa kinachoumiza watu zaidi ya hiyo homa ya mapafu na kushindwa kupumua ni kuganda kwa damu, ambapo inapelekea kupata stroke kali. Kwa hiyo mimi kwa kiasi kikubwa nadhani ni salama. Na kwa nini wameweka hiyo kwenye consent, kwamba ukienda kwenye form watakuuliza je, wewe ni mjamzito ama unatarajiwa kuwa mjamzito? Ni kwa sababu data za awali hazikuunganisha akina mama wajawazito. Kwa kawaida majaribio yote ya madawa na chanjo huwa hayahusishi mama wajawazito, na ni kitu ambacho huenda kikabadilika katika kipindi hichi cha COVID-19, kwa sababu wameona kutokuwa na data ni ngumu zaidi kuliko kuwa na data. Na imetokea kwamba kuna kina mama wengi ambao tayari wameshapigwa chanjo hawakujijua kwamba ni wajawazito. Wakija wakicheki miezi miwili baadaye wanasema kumbe nilikuwa mjamzito wakati nimepata COVID. Kwa hiyo tayari wanaanza kukutupa data. Ndio unajua ukishaanza kuwa na watu milioni 50 utakuta kuna vitu vinatokea mle ndani, tutapata data hata kama hataki kuzipata data. Nadhani hiyo pia itatupa mwangaza zaidi. Kwa hiyo mimi nadhani kishafikia wa Marekani milioni 100 wamepata chanjo, maswali mengi sana yatakuwa yamejibiwa kuhusu hilo swali. Dakika, naomba nisaidie kumanage maswali kwenye chat kwa sababu ni ngumu kuangalia chat na kuongea.
So uko tayari kuchukua maswali?
Yeah, sawa, hamna shida.
Yako mengi. Okay, yako kwa Kiingereza. Nitasoma Kiingereza and then unaweza kujibu whatever. So doctor, does the vaccine have any effect on one's reproduction system? I think you have answered that. Let me see.
I know. Yep.
Now that I'm vaccinated and want to go to my country in Africa, it is required to be tested. Did I can test positive, and if yes, what next? Did traditional medicine treat really COVID-19? Is it true that vaccinated people can transmit COVID-19 even though they don't have?
So twende kidogo. So the vaccine versus like a testing thing. So this is a fast moving target, okay? Now we believe that many of the travel guidance is going to change as more and more Americans and Europeans get vaccinated. The whole requirement to test is going to change for the most part. So I think the best thing to do if you are vaccinated and you want to travel to your country of origin, one, I hope your country of origin is not Tanzania. So your country of origin is actually testing and they have an idea of what's happening in their country. Unfortunately, in Tanzania, we don't even know which variant is circulating. So I would say in the next couple of weeks is probably not advisable, in my opinion, because you don't really know what you're dealing with. But this is to say, by the end of March, we're going to have fantastic data because we're going to know, is the vaccine preventative 100% versus the South African variant? Is the vaccine 100% protective against the UK variant, the Brazil variant? So we're going to have data. So basically, as more time goes on, we get to actually see more information. So meaning, if you're trying to travel, I would wait at least until the end of March because I believe the data is going to be different and we're going to know more information. So I think that would be the educated guess. We have people who are testing, for example, in Tanzania, and the testing regimen is not so great. So I can't really comment so much on that. But my advice to you would be your safest bet is to wait until at least the end of March, where we will begin to know different data. Or the other way is to wait for Biden's 100 days to end, because I think that will really determine a lot of things. Kids going back to school, teachers going back to school, traveling opening, the economy slowly opening. So I think we're going to have more instructions on that. So nilikuwa nasema tu kuhusu hiyo kupima na chanjo. Mimi nadhani kiasi kikubwa tukishapata chanjo itapunguza sana uhitaji wa kupima hiyo COVID-19. Na nadhani kwa kiasi kikubwa nadhani dunia inajaribu kupush watu wasafiri kwa maana ya kuonyesha kwamba wamechanjwa hizo mbili. Whether ukishachanjwa inazuia wewe kusambaza COVID-19, hilo bado ni swali ambalo linaanza kujibiwa taratibu. Data zinaonyesha kwamba inapunguza uwezekano wa wewe kuambukiza mtu mwingine, lakini sidhani kama inazuia moja kwa moja kwa 100%. Kama tulivyosisitiza hapo awali, hii chanjo ilitengenezwa dhidi ya severe COVID. Almost wangesema sio chanjo ya COVID-19, wanasema ni chanjo ya severe COVID-19. Hicho ndicho ambacho wanajaribu kukupa kinga against. So I think that's hiyo vitu vya kutofautisha, na ndio maana hata baada tunapigwa chanjo bado tunashauriwa kuvaa barakoa. Naona hapa niko hospitali lakini tunapiga barakoa na bado tunaosha mikono na bado tunaepuka mikusanyiko. So it's all katika bado tunaendelea kuangalia hizi data zitakanda vipi, na hiyo pia inapunguza mimi uwezekano wa kuambukiza watu wengine, lakini pia kuambukizwa na hizi variant mpya ambazo bado hatujajua mwenendo wake. Asante.
Yeah, before we move to the French translator, kuna maswali mengine hapa Dr. Mawili. Very important. Yeah. What about newborns? Are they going to need COVID-19 vaccine too? If a pregnant mom is vaccinated, does the baby need vaccine too once they are born?
I don't believe we are vaccinating children or newborns for that matter. This is one of the grace that we have from COVID-19 that so far it's not affecting children as much. It affects them, but to a much, much lesser extent. And so I haven't heard any sort of plans to vaccinate anybody under 16. I think you have to be 16 and over to qualify for the vaccine. So really, that's one of the graces of this COVID-19, because I can't imagine if COVID-19 was equally severe among children as it is in older people. I mean, you can just imagine in all the schools, if COVID-19 was killing kids the way it's killing older people in nursing homes, we would have had a very it would have been a pandemic squared. So let's just say it that way. So stay tuned. So far, you don't have to vaccinate newborns.
Okay, another question. How safe is the vaccine to people with chronic diseases such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and so on?
Just like pregnant females, they are the ones who should be like frontline and center. Okay? If you have diabetes, please get the vaccine. If you have high blood pressure, get the vaccine. If you're over 65, get the vaccine. If you're on cancer treatment, get the vaccine. If you're on anything that lowers your immune status, get the vaccine. And actually, many states actually have the 1A or 1B designation where you don't have to be 65. Okay? If you can prove that you have one of these chronic illnesses, you can be among the first in your state to get vaccinated. So again, as we see, most patients who have the comorbidities are the ones who actually suffer the most and tend to get the severe COVID. So it actually works the other way. It's the same thing as like in pregnant female. You are at higher risk of getting the severe COVID if you have any one of those comorbidities. And this is also what we saw very quickly, even in China, that the patients who had severe COVID or died, the vast majority had a comorbidity, either meaning they had diabetes, kisukari, had high blood pressure, shinikizo la damu, ama had saratani kwa maana ya cancer. So 100% are recommended.
So Dr. Frank, there's another one which is really, I think, common in Tanzania, I should say. How about traditional medicine and COVID-19? Kind of related.
Yeah, great question. So we just spoke about, we've been talking most about severe COVID, right? So there are 3 variants of COVID. There's mild COVID, there's moderate COVID, and severe COVID, right? Severe COVID, you're gonna end up in the ICU. Moderate COVID, for the most part, you'll need oxygen, okay? Mild COVID, you don't need anything. You literally don't need it. It's like a flu, okay? Like the level of severity is like a flu. So if you get a mild flu and you decide, hey, I'm going to put a little lemon in my tea, makes me feel better, go ahead and do that. If you get a mild flu symptoms, you say, I put a little honey in my tea, makes me feel better, go ahead and do that. If you say, I get a little flu symptoms, I put ginger in my tea, I feel better, go ahead and do that. If you say, I get a little flu, I put a little Vicks vapor wrap, it makes me feel better, go ahead and do that. If you start to gasp for air, you're unable to breathe, traditional medicine is not going to help you. What you need is oxygen, and you also need to practice what we call proning, meaning you need to breathe as much as possible while lying on your chest instead of on your back, okay? It turns out that you're able to bring oxygen to your lungs better if you're lying on your chest instead of lying on your back, right? It basically sends the air and the oxygen exchange is much better. So the challenge with traditional medicine is, 1, it's been politicized. 2, people are being given that because the governments are not providing them with actually what they need, which is oxygen. So it's easier for me as the government to tell you, piga nyungu, which is what we're telling people in Tanzania. Hey, use this like steam, herbal, whatever medicine. And then you don't have to ask me why you're not providing oxygen in the hospitals. Okay, that is what you need to do. And I see this in Tanzania time and time again. What people are doing, they're self-treating at home, both for mild and moderate, because the people at home are not taking any measurements. So they don't even know what the oxygen level is. They don't even know what a pulse oximeter is, okay? So you're sitting at home, you started, okay, I'm gonna do Vicks vapor wrap, I'm gonna take Tylenol, I'm gonna put ginger, and now I'm gonna put garlic, now I'm gonna put honey, now I'm gonna put whatever mix. Okay, you're in mild, you're okay. Then at some point, you switch into moderate. Suddenly, you're like, this is moderate. I'm gonna now do the steaming, nyungu. So you cover yourself with this like blanket with like a steam. 1, you reduce the oxygen going into yourself. So you put this blanket, And you have a charcoal, you have like a charcoal. So you're using charcoal. Charcoal is a carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. You're using steam, you're putting your blanket over yourself. So you're lowering the oxygen that's coming into your body, okay? And you're moving from mild to moderate. By the time the family understands that, you know what, this stuff is not working, it's too late. So now they rush the person to the hospital. Hey, mama so-and-so can no longer breathe. Can you help them? You go to the hospital, there's no oxygen. It's too late. So we actually find the number of people dying at home is almost equal to the number of people dying at the hospital. Because of this whole, let's do traditional medicine before we actually go to like, proper like, medical care. So I just say severe COVID, you have no chance at home. Moderate COVID, your best bet is to be in a health facility with oxygen. If you cannot get to a health facility with oxygen, the next best thing is to practice what we call proning. Literally, you have to go on your knees and basically you have to be breathing, make sure your chest is facing down to take deep breaths. And Dakika, we have a video about proning that I think you should absolutely share with your audience. I've posted it on Twitter several times. Please share it. It's the only thing I think in our communities that can help people. And many, what I did not realize that it's here in the United States and the United Kingdom, that's what they tell their patients when they're trying to temporize when the hospitals are full. That's what they tell them. And so you have a nurse who says, okay, tell me what your oxygen level is. Or your oxygen is 90, no problem, keep proning. Sasa nyumbani, we don't have oxygen. So if a nurse calls you, you can't tell them like what oxygen, they're like, what is that? Okay? You don't even know about oxygen. Oxygen they came to know after COVID. So it's like there's a health literacy thing, there's a health system thing. So we tell people you gotta do proning. And what does that mean? That means you gotta do 12 to 18 hours during the most severe part of COVID. This is the other thing that people don't understand. COVID comes in waves. Okay? So when it hits you, there's going to be 24 to 36 hours of what we call the cytokine storm. Like that's when like the pneumonia is at the height of it. And that's where you need to fight with your breathing or get additional oxygen to get over that hump. If you panic and you don't get over that hump, those are the people that we're losing. And we're losing hundreds and hundreds of people because of this. And so it's nothing against traditional medicine. And lastly, traditional medicine is not protective. Okay, it's not a vaccine. So we even see people doing nyungu preventative, which is a whole nother like level of like, kabisa like nonsense. Like who would put Vicks VapoRub to prevent them from getting a flu? Like nobody does that. Like nobody will say, hey, you know what? It's flu season now. I don't have flu, but I'm just gonna put some like Vicks VapoRub. So it's the same thing that we're doing with the nyungu, and it's really hurting people. And again, it's been politicized, so it's very charged. That's all I can say. That it's politicized, but it's completely false information. But it's not traditional medicine. Herbal medicine, for the most part, has a role in the mild form of COVID. And you have to know when to stop. You have to know when you're transitioning to moderate COVID, where you need help that your traditional medicine is not going to help us. And I just can't emphasize that enough. And so I will just stop there for now.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Frank. I'll just let the French interpreter, if she can summarize a little bit, and then we move back to our questions. Mama Lucy.
OK. Oui, docteur a parlé sur le test de vaccin qu'on est en train d'expérimenter en Afrique du Sud depuis un UK. Vers le mois de mars, on pourra avoir ce qu'on appelle les data, ce qu'on appelle les statistiques pour voir si les conditions de voyage seront modifiées. Mais pour le moment, les gens voyagent on les teste simplement, mais on ne sait pas après le mois de mars qu'est-ce que ça donnera. Peut-être ça pourra donner, on pourra changer la manière des instructions sur le programme de voyage. Bon, il a encore parlé, on a posé la question, est-ce que les nouveaux, les enfants, les nouveau-nés peuvent recevoir le vaccin? Il a dit que jusque-là, ils n'ont pas remarqué que les enfants sont affectés par le vaccin pratiquement les enfants de 0 à 16 ans ne sont pas beaucoup affectés parce qu'ils n'ont pas connu beaucoup de cas. Mais les gens qui sont exposés, ce sont les femmes qui sont enceintes et surtout ceux qui sont en train de passer dans les processions de fertilité. Vous voyez, à d'autres mamans, pour maintenir leur fœtus, il faut que les médecins interviennent avec des médicaments, avec ceci, cela. Alors, ces gens de mamans, ils ont besoin du vaccin pour que le fœtus puisse être bien protégé, afin que la grossesse puisse arriver à terme. Il a aussi parlé des personnes qui sont malades, qui ont déjà des maladies chroniques, le diabète, disons les tensions, les maladies du cœur, beaucoup de maladies. Ces gens-là et les personnes qui sont âgées au-dessus de 65 ans, pour les gens qui sont déjà passés dans des maladies compliquées, hospitalisées à certaines occasions, je pense, pour eux, 100%, ils doivent prendre le vaccin pour être protégés, surtout parce qu'on se demande s'ils vont vraiment résister devant le COVID qui prendra le niveau le plus élevé qu'on appelle les severe level. Il a aussi parlé que le COVID a 3 formes. Il y a le premier niveau qui est un peu simple, ça s'attaque comme le flou, comme la toux. Les gens ils peuvent tousser, ils peuvent prendre des petites choses que nous prenons, telles que disons, les gingembre, les citrons, le vaccin, tout ça. Mais le deuxième niveau, on appelle ça le niveau moderne, là où la personne a besoin de l'oxygène. Et maintenant, dans des maisons, c'est pas facile d'avoir l'oxygène. Mais c'est pas aussi facile de savoir si la personne qui est malade ici, son oxygène a déjà diminué pour que l'hôpital puisse déterminer. Il ne faudra pas que cette personne-là puisse avoir l'oxygène en dessous de 90%. Bon, il y a aussi le troisième niveau qu'on appelle le niveau sévère. Là, alors, c'est très compliqué, où il faut vraiment que l'hôpital puisse intervenir. Et qu'à la maison, des cas comme ça, des cas sévères, amènent les gens à la mort. Alors, il a aussi mentionné que le COVID attaque comme les vagues. Vous voyez, quand vous êtes devant une rivière, vous voyez comment les vagues montent. Donc, ça vient, après ça augmente, ça peut encore aller jusqu'au niveau sévère. Donc, quelqu'un peut attaquer ça avec des petites choses, mais à la longue, il ne se rend pas compte que ça a déjà pris une forme dont il faut être hospitalisé. Et quand on intervient en retard, ça pose de sérieux problèmes. Donc, son conseil est que les gens puissent ne pas négliger de prendre le vaccin parce qu'on ne sait pas. Quand on reste à la maison, on ne sait pas qu'est-ce que cela ça peut amener. En quelque sorte, c'est ça. Et puis, il a parlé un peu de personnes qui utilisent la manière de se couvrir quand il faut intervenir pour le flou. Ils ne se rendent pas compte qu'en s'étouffant dans cette température, ou bien l'environnement de la chaleur, pour permettre que, disons, la chaleur puisse entrer dans les faudrait-il appeler ça les poumons ou quoi, hein? Je ne sais pas, dans l'esophage et conduire ça, je ne sais pas. Alors, il a dit que c'est un moyen même d'étouffer l'oxygène dans la vie des personnes. Donc, si quelqu'un avait déjà atteint le niveau qu'on appelle moderne, le niveau qui demande l'oxygène, et quand vous l'étouffez encore dans cette histoire-là, c'est comme si vous le poussez encore à tomber malade, ou même à se perdre. Donc, parfois, ce n'est pas facile de déterminer si le niveau, si quelqu'un est malade, pour déterminer quel niveau il a. Est-ce qu'il est dans le premier niveau, deuxième niveau, bien troisième niveau? C'est simplement l'hôpital qui peut tester et déterminer. Voilà, c'est ce que j'ai entendu. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Okay.
So, Daktari.
Ndio.
Yeah, kuna maswali mengine hapa mawili.
Asante sana Mama Teresa. I have to say in French. Merci beaucoup, ma Teresa.
Oh. Merci beaucoup, docteur. Moi, c'est maman ici.
Okay, so doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, kuna hii moja kwanza mtu anasema thank you very much for the info, doctor. Do you think WHO will interfere with what is going on in Tanzania, like the way the government is holding info on COVID-19 impact?
The answer is probably not. The way the WHO works, it works through the member state. And so the WHO acts in an advisory capacity. It doesn't really enforce. So if you don't like to vaccinate your own people, WHO can only recommend that you do. And so that is one angle that I'm pretty sure they're not going to do it. But we are monitoring the situation very closely, and we are advocating very closely that our government look into getting the vaccines. And we are hopeful that the position will change. If the position doesn't change, then yes, we may move into human rights arena. It will be uncharted territory because there's been no country that has actually refused to vaccinate their own citizens. So Tanzania will be the first test case. So that would be unfortunate. I would just say in the news today, I was listening to people are thinking about how to get vaccines to Yemen, which is in war, understand? Or Syria, which is in like 10 or 20 years of war. They're thinking about how they can get those people vaccines. And we are saying we don't want vaccines. So you can just kind of like put in imagination of like how far we are. But I think things are hopefully going to change, and we're always hopeful. And the reason we talk on these platforms is that, many of you have friends in the government, maybe your families are in the government, and maybe you guys can help us to educate them. And slowly, as we also, the diaspora, gets vaccinated, I think it will be a very good testimony to those people at home, because they'll see you getting vaccinated and nothing is happening to you. And therefore, they will hopefully be encouraged. So I think it's more education than enforcement that's going to win the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Mama Lucy, are you ready? You think? Mama Lucy. Okay.
Le docteur est en train de parler de Tanzanie. C'est un pays qui refuse le vaccin. Alors, ils disent qu'ils sont en train de faire des pourparlers et des processus au niveau du gouvernement. Peut-être ils ont des organisations qui sont en train de chercher comment amener le vaccin en Tanzanie. Alors, s'ils ne réussissent pas, ils pourront utiliser les autres voies disons, de droits humains, parce qu'ils ne comprennent pas pourquoi un seul pays ne peut pas prendre le vaccin quand le monde entier a reçu le vaccin. Puis, ils disent que si un pays comme Yémen et puis Syrie, qui sont dans les guerres, ils souhaitent même recevoir le vaccin. Jusque-là, ce n'est pas aussi facile de leur transmettre le vaccin. Mais à combien plus forte raison la Tanzanie, qui peut recevoir le vaccin, refuse. Bon, peut-être les citoyens tanzaniens, ils chercheront, ils vont trouver le voie et le moyen pour accuser peut-être le gouvernement ou pas, on ne sait pas. C'est ce que j'ai entendu.
Merci beaucoup, Mama Teresa.
Merci beaucoup, Papa.
That's actually Mama Lucy.
Oh, Mama Lucy. Oh, sorry. In French, all of them sound the same.
I know. But Mama Teresa has good questions on the chat here. I don't know if you can address that. And also, I want you to switch back to Swahili as well. Ulikuwa unaongea kitu muhimu sana. And I feel like the Swahili people, maybe they're messed up.
Kuhusu?
Kwenye ile mambo ya WHO and COVID with Tanzania. Yeah. If you can go back to that as well. Okay. Mama Teresa's question. What do you think about video of some white people talking about the plot to reduce Black race?
I'm like you too. So that's like, again, in the realm of like a nonsense misinformation that thankfully our last president has been silenced. So we're getting less and less of these misinformation really circulating. One way to understand this is very simple. The virus doesn't care what race you are. Okay, the virus doesn't really care like what race you are. Like the virus only attacks the human as a host. So as far as the virus is concerned, if you're a human, you have what they call the receptor. There is actually like a special protein that is only found in human beings. And the virus basically attaches it to that. So the virus actually needs a human host to replicate. So it doesn't care whether you're Indian, you're Chinese. And this is what people used to say in the beginning. So last year in January or February, before the virus like hit America, there was a lot of like rumors that, hey, being African is protective. Okay, so that, oh, you know, we are African, you know, we have strong genes or whatever, we are like protected.
Uh-oh. Doctor is frozen. Okay, Mama Lucy, you wanna take over until he comes back?
Okay, maman.
Okay.
Le docteur est en train de dire que le vaccin attaque toutes les races. Le vaccin ne choisit pas si tu es chinois, indien ou bien qui. Parce que la personne, disons, l'être humain a une protéine dans sa constitution humaine. Et c'est cette protéine-là qui est souvent attaquée par le virus. Donc, ça attaque tout le monde qui est humain. Il n'y a pas que seulement les Africains ou les Blancs. Parce qu'il n'y a pas longtemps, les gens disaient que les Africains ne seront pas attaqués parce qu'ils sont un peu spéciaux. Ils ont un DNA qui est différent des Blancs. Non, ce n'est pas vrai. Toute personne qui est humaine a la même protéine là. Et ça, le virus, quand il attaque, il ne choisit pas les races ni les pays. C'est ce qu'il disait.
Thank you. Dr. Frank, you're frozen a little, so we missed some parts. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you were done.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. Nitaongea kwa Kiswahili kidogo.
Okay.
So somebody asked there, you know, why did they ask for your race on the vaccine form? It could be that the county you're in wants to track disparities. Kwa sababu we have seen there is already a disparity that white people are getting more vaccines than black people, which is both a combination of supply and also demand. Kwamba the supply in general is low, like in the demand in our community is low pia.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, the white people show up and get a vaccine, and then we don't show up and then we complain. So it's like they can't win. It's kind of like, hey, come and get a vaccine, that we have to literally be forced. So they discovered different ways in New York, for example, they actually go to the housing community. So they just reduce the barriers, whether it's transportation, whether it's a location that they're doing it. So they make it convenient, and that way. And when they do that, many of our communities actually have pretty decent acceptance of the vaccine. So it's a combination. Part of it is misinformation, but part of it is also like an access issue. Naomba pia niongelee issue ya WHO iko hivi kwamba shirika la afya duniani haliwezi kulazimisha taifa lichukue hatua yote ya kiafya. Shirika la afya duniani linafanya kazi kwa kutoa ushauri. Okay? So linashauri serikali. Haliwezi kuja kuwalazimisha nyie muoshe mikono, mvae barakoa, ama haiwezi kuwalazimisha. Inatoa tu ushauri kwamba data tulizonazo ni hizi na hizi, tunashauri mfanye hivi. Tunawashauri mvae barakoa jamani, wamekuwa wakisema hivyo tangia Machi mwaka jana. Tunawashauri jamani muoshe mikono kwa maji tiririka, wamekuwa wakisema hivyo tangia Machi mwaka jana. Tunaomba mwepuke mikusanyiko, wamekuwa wakisema hivyo tangia Machi. Tunaomba sasa mchanje, mfanye mipango ya kuweka chanjo. Sisi bado tunakuwa wabishi. Sasa issue ya kutaweza kuingiliwa, Tanzania inaweza kuingiliwa labda na mashirika ama mataifa mengine. Kuna namna mbili ambavyo huenda ikatokea, na naomba isitokee. Ni kwamba endapo tutaendelea kugomea chanjo, huenda ikawa ni kitu cha haki za binadamu, kwamba ndugu zangu wa Kenya wanaweza kupata chanjo, lakini mimi niko Arusha siwezi kupata chanjo kwa sababu serikali yangu imegoma kuingiza chanjo kwenye nchi yangu. Je, nina ruhusa kwenda Kenya kupata chanjo? Kwa hiyo itaingia kwenye vitu vya haki za binadamu. Kitu kingine ambacho huenda kikatokea endapo tutaendelea kuwa wabishi ni kwamba watu wanaosafiri kutoka Tanzania wanaweza wasiruhusiwe kuingia nchi yote nyingine. Kwa hiyo tukawekewa embargo. Hiyo ndio njia nyingine ya kubanwa, kwamba sisi katika mataifa 55 ya Afrika, Tanzania ni nchi pekee isiyo pima, isiyotangaza majawabu ya nani ana corona, na pia ni nchi pekee katika hizo nchi 55 za Afrika ambazo hazijajisajili kupokea chanjo. Kwa hiyo tayari we are a major outlier. Ukiangalia ramani ya Afrika kutoka Africa CDC, yani Tanzania ni nchi pekee ambayo tungetaka tu mstari wa mbele, lakini kidogo tumeamua kurudi nyuma, and hopefully hiyo itabadilika.
Oh, thank you.
Tunaweza
swali lingine?
Oh, sorry. Tunaweza kuuliza swali au mpaka tuandike kwenye chat?
Yeah, go ahead. Kama uko tayari, go ahead.
Okay, asante. Haya, asante sana Dr. Minja kwa kuwa na muda wa kutusikiliza. Nashukuru sana mawaidha ya kwako na ushauri na changamoto ambayo unatuonyesha. Kwa kweli nafikiria saa nyingine labda tungeweza kujiuliza kwamba ni kwa nini Tanzania, au sio Tanzania, tuna watu weusi walioko nchi ambayo nchi ina education ya hali ya juu, kwa tukianza kuongelea mambo ya maradhi. Kwa nini wao wanakuwa wanasita mpaka sasa hivi? Kuna ambao wanasita sana. Nilikuwa kwenye mkutano mwingine jana, kwamba hawaamini hizi dawa zitaweza kuwasaidia. Kwa hiyo nadhani ni vizuri pia, kwa vile tunaelewa na Tanzania tunajua kuna HPV, kuna hizi contraceptives ambazo watu wanaziona kwamba zinakuja kwenye nchi yetu kutupunguzia idadi ya watu weusi. Kuna historia ambayo ni lazima pia tuiweke maanani, kwamba kuna sababu fulani watu kwa nini hawaamini hizi dawa. Kwa hiyo tukiweza tusidharau au tusitupie mbali hiyo na kusema tu serikali inafanya hivi vibaya, serikali kwa nini nakataa, na WHO wanaweza wakaingilia. Nadhani pia tukubaliane kwamba watu hawaamini hizi dawa, kuna sababu mbalimbali. Alafu pia tuweze kuleta sasa hiyo education zaidi, kwamba hii pamoja na yote uliyoelezea, which is really good, kama itaweza kupelekwa Watanzania wakasikiliza, it's very good. Lakini naomba pia tusifanye tu kwamba Tanzania they just, sio kwamba wana madharau kiasi fulani au kwa nini hawataki hizi dawa. Kuna sababu ambayo inawafanya wakatae. Rais wetu ni msomi, anajua, is a chemistry. Nadhani ile awamu ya kwanza ya COVID, kama tunaweza kuita awamu ya kwanza, waliweza kuimudu pamoja na hiyo fukiza nyungu na chai ya tangawizi. Lakini ya pili kwa kweli inawasafisha watu vibaya sana. Lakini pia nataka nionyeshe kwamba sio tu maelezo, sio tu kukashfa, au sio kashfa, sina neno zuri zaidi ya hilo, lakini pia tuangalie kwa nini. Na pia pamoja na maelezo yote ambayo yanasaidia sana, na kila mtu awe na ile make your own self decision, kwamba okay, nimesikiliza leo yote haya, yatanisaidia. So you decide for yourself. Kwamba sitaki niseme nimeamua kwa sababu Dr. Minja ameongelea, and then I'm making decision ambayo baadaye nitakuja kulaumu. Make your own decision for every information you're gathering, alafu uchague mwenyewe unachotaka kufanya. That's all.
Asante. Sikupata muda wa kuingia kiundani. Na hii topic ni ndefu, kwa hiyo tunaweza tukaongea usiku mzima tukawa naongea hapo. So ngoja nikujibu tu kwa lugha rahisi, najaribu kusummarize, yani nakupa version ya CNN yani ni summary of the summary, maana tunajaribu kuongelea miezi 9 in like 2 minutes. Iko hivi: wimbi la kwanza lilipopita Tanzania, tulicheza bahati nasibu. Okay? Tulicheza bahati nasibu basically. Okay? Nchi zote nyingine ziliingia lockdown, zikachukua hatua stahiki, zikafanyaje? Sisi tuliingia ka lockdown kadogo for like 3-4 weeks. Walivyofanya zile 3-4 weeks, walifanyaje? Wakawaweka wagonjwa wote ambao walikuwa kwenye mild symptoms, wakaweka kwenye health facilities. Wakawaangalia for 2-3 weeks. Sawa, mbona the vast majority ya wagonjwa ambao tunapima wako positive? Mbona wako wana mild symptoms? Sasa what's the big deal? Sawa, wakacheza bahati nasibu, na ukumbuka wakati tulikuwa mambo ya uchaguzi. Kwa hiyo Magufuli akacheza bahati nasibu, akasema hii ngoma hata kama ikija Tanzania, hata hii ngoma ikija Tanzania haitaua watu wengi kihivyo. At least haitaua watu wengi kadri ilivyokadiriwa hapo mwanzoni. And he was right. Kwa hiyo walishinda, walicheza bahati nasibu akashinda. Walivyoshinda bahati nasibu akasema hizo ni sala na nyungu zimefanya. But watu wameshafanya utafiti, wakagundua kwamba kumbe nchi za Tanzania na Zambia mathalan specifically walikuwa wameshakuwa exposed kwenye a type of coronavirus around 2018. Kwamba tayari si tulishakiona kirusi cha aina fulani cha corona. Kwa hiyo tayari tulikuwa na immunity fulani. Kwa hiyo changanya factors hizo. Tulikuwa na prior exposure, tuna taifa lenye watu wadogo, kwa hiyo watu wazee sio wengi kiivo, 80% ya population yetu sio urban, hawaishi mijini. Kwa hiyo tayari tuko kama social distance fulani. Na 4, wali actually chukua zile hatua stahiki. Mama Ume alikuwa anasisitizia barakoa, alikuwa anasisitizia maji tiririka, alikuwa anasisitizia kuepuka mikusanyiko. Shule zilifungwa. Watu wanadhania kwamba hawakuchukua hatua zozote. Walichukua hatua zote. Sawa. Sasa fast forward kuja kwenye December. Hii ngoma ni mpya, hii ni virus kutoka South Africa. Wabongo hatujaiona. Sawa. Wakajaribu kucheza bahati nasibu hiyo kutumia mbinu zile. Sawa, wakasubiri December chali, Januari katikati chali, Januari mwishoni chali, Februari katikati, suddenly wanakuja, you know what? Tuna uviko 19. Wamesubiri wiki 6. Kuangalia hii ngoma inakwendaje? Ngoma inaendelea kula watu. Sawa. So ukisema kwamba walishinda au wametumia mbinu zilifanya, walichukua bahati nasibu. Ni sasa wewe leo uende kusema umechukua lottery card ukashinda, ukasema nimepiga mahesabu. You won. Na sisei kwamba hawakushinda, lakini ukumbuke walichukua hatua stahiki nyingi tu. Na watu kwanza somo lilowaingia. So all the way mpaka June walivyoamua sasa tunaingia kwenye kipindi cha kampeni, wakasitisha all of those things. Sasa wanajaribu kutumia mbinu zile wakidhania kwamba the wave ya sasa hivi ni kama wave ya 12 months ago, which is not true. Na pia hatupimi. Ukumbuka kipindi kile walikuwa wanapima lakini watangazi. Sasa hivi hawapimi kabisa. Yeah. So it's like a whole different topic. Naomba sitaki kuingia kiundani, like I'll just tell you, inaweza ikaelezeka kabisa. They just playing ni siasa. Let's just say it's pure siasa. Sasa kuna sababu za msingi, unfortunately umesema hapo HPV inasababisha infertility. That's another like rumor, okay? HPV vaccination inapunguza infection ya HPV ambayo inapunguza kansa mbili kubwa sana. Kansa ya koo na kansa ya shingo ya kizazi. Okay? This is another big thing kwenye jamii zetu. So, akina mama hawapati pap smear, akina mama hawapati HPV vaccine, tunasema inawapunguzia kupata mimba. Then wanapata kansa ya shingo ya kizazi, and hicho ni kansa ambayo ina maumivu balaa. Yani ina maumivu balaa. Unaenda Ocean Road utaona, yani it's all of that. So just to just dispel, wasoje kusema sijui chanjo HPV umecheck hivi. So kuna sababu zozote za kimsingi za kutokuamini dawa za Western. HIV tunatumia dawa zinatoka wapi? Tanzania imetengeneza dawa ipi ambayo inatibu saratani? Tanzania imetengeneza dawa ipi inayotibu HIV? Tanzania imetengeneza dawa ipi inayotibu malaria? Mbona tuweki kidonge cha 40? It's like, so tunasema hivi vitu lakini tujue kwamba vinatumika kipropaganda. Na mimi sikatai kuongea na kujaribu kumwelimisha mtu ambaye kweli anataka kufahamu. Mimi ninachojaribu kupiga kelele ni against deliberate misinformation. Yani unajua kwamba hichi kitu ni sahihi, and then unatumia muda mwingi na nguvu nyingi kuwapotosha watu. Kusema kwamba barakoa ifanyi kazi wakati mabilioni ya watu duniani wanatumia barakoa, huo ni upotoshaji wa wazi. Sawa, kusema kwamba kujichanganya haijalishi ni upotoshaji wa wazi. That's very different kwa kusema bwana mtu yuko kijijini anasema I really want to understand hii barakoa inanikinga vipi. That is a very different. Na nadhani that's the opportunity cost ambayo tunayo, kwamba watu wetu hawana access to information. Kwa hiyo information hata wanayopata wanategemea kwamba sisi ambao tunauelewa tuwape information sahihi, lakini kwa sababu za kisiasa tunawapa information ambazo sio sahihi, which is very wrong. Na nadhani ndio maana wengine tunapayuka kwenye mitandao ili kuhakikisha list information inafika, na kama ifike kwenye mtandao list hopefully inafika kwenye familia ambazo tunazifikia. Kama kadri nyewe mnavyoelewa, I always say sitaweza kuongea na familia zote, lakini nyewe mna access kwenye familia zenu, mna access kwenye makanisa yenu, mna access kwenye magroup yenu, mna access na nyewe ongeeni mnachoelewa ili tujaribu kuokoana, kwa sababu tumeshindwa kupata njia ya kiserikali, kwa maana ya Tanzania at least tumeshindwa kupata njia ya kiserikali ya kuwafikia watu. Kwa hiyo ndio tunapitia hizi njia mbadala. Niongee na Dakika ili Dakika niunganishe na watu wangu, ama niongee kupitia Dakika, ama niongee kupitia Twitter. Lakini ingetakiwa natoka kwa rais, natoka kwa Wizara ya Afya, ni data ambazo hazina ubishi kiivo.
Nashukuru Dr. Minja, asante.
So Dr. Minja, I also wanted to say something real quick.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Dr. Minja, asante sana for that. My name, jina langu mimi naitwa Harold Odhiambo.
Yes.
So, you know, like vile hata dada nani alikuwa nasema.
Can we use English now, because I'm getting a lot of complaints from my non-Swahili speakers. Let's try to balance here.
Okay.
Sorry.
Pole. So Dr. Minja, you know, like kind of what Edna was talking about, I kind of, in fact, like I was just listening to what you're saying earlier on, and what it has kind of brought me to is what we were talking about earlier on, you know, the hesitance of the Black community. And I think you touched on it earlier on in your introduction. And that is something that I think we cannot kind of still like really get away from. And when I talk about the Black community, I'm looking at the Africans and the African Americans. And if you look at the Tuskegee effect, you know, and I don't know if so many people get to know about it, you know, when there was that kind of an experiment. And that is something that still today kind of like really rubbed the Black people in the wrong way.
Yes.
You know, and you find that those are things that's actually causing a lot of problems up to now within the Black community. I would say it's kind of still playing around with their minds, you know, and when they see such kind of things, they kind of get to have this, you know, kind of like, am I so sure, you know?
Exactly.
And you find because of such kind of things, it still kind of affects the Black community in terms of getting to do so many things, to a point that, you know, like even when it comes to elections, you kind of like really have to force people, tell somebody else that your vote makes a difference. And I think it's kind of like, it plays about also in something like this.
What we're paying is called the racism and slavery tax. And that is going to play with us for several more generations. And so I don't even say it lightly, but that's essentially what we're paying the price of that. I mean, these, you know, if you're living in America, nobody needs to teach you about racism, but it's so deeply embedded, and people are conditioned from a very, very young age. I'm talking like before you're 5, they already know I am Black. And because I'm Black, such and such I don't deserve this and this. And it's a very insidious poison that is really visited upon our people. And I'm very happy that you mentioned, Kwamba, it plays with our minds. Okay? So it plays with our minds. And because it plays with our minds, it's very difficult to get people to do behaviors that are not in sync with how they think. Okay? So if somebody already thinks that this thing is going to hurt me, you can't easily make them do that thing that their brain is telling, well, I have 50 other examples where these guys were trying to hurt you. Why do you think they're trying to be nice to you now? Okay, so I completely accept that, and all I can say is this. My answer to that is COVID is a new disease. COVID is not syphilis. Okay, this is something that the whole world is just understanding. COVID first came into the world in December 2019. That is the first time this disease was described. So we're dealing with a brand new disease. Now, if we're dealing with a brand new disease, a brand new technology that's stressing the disease, let us try to create a new history, okay? Let us use that opportunity that we have a new virus. This is not a disease of the age. This is not TB. This is not syphilis. This is not disease that have been with the human beings forever. This is a brand new disease. We're literally learning as we're going. Now, so the only way to change your mind is to accept that there's a possibility of learning. That's the only thing I can tell you. Everything you say is true. Everything that they've done to us is absolutely true. However, the only thing that our Creator gave us is an infinite ability to learn. And every human is endowed with that until you die. Why? Because basically your brain is constantly making cells that lay down new memory. So you just have to be willing to learn. Now, if you want to stick to your story from like 1800s, I can't stop you. If you want to do things the way like, you know, they were done before Jesus's time, I can't stop you. All I can say is you have a possibility to learn something different. And this disease is teaching us whether you like it or not. So you can say, I don't want to learn how to wear a mask, and then you get severe COVID and you die. Basically, or you get a massive stroke, or you infect your loved one, or you do what, there's going to be a consequence. And that's the beauty or the dark beauty of COVID, is like, it's forcing communities that basically refuse to change behavior to suffer the most. So the communities that change their behavior fastest suffer the least. The communities that take the longest time to change are going to suffer the most, and for the longest time. So the irony of all of this, plus racism, is going to turn out that the white community is going to be bouncing back to the economy, making more money, and we're still like dying of COVID because we're still stuck in like the Tuskegee study. I'm like, yes, that is history. That history has been addressed. That history needs to be revisited, but we can't sort of go back to the time when Black people could not vote. The Black people can vote. Okay, so you can't go back to the time Black people could not go to whatever school. You can go to a school, right? So there's been a lot of change, and still there's a long way to go. I'm just saying there's still a long way to go. But just when it comes to healthcare, the issue is we have an infinite amount to learn, and two, you only live once. This is another thing. Again, I'm going to step on people's toes. We have an incredible, what we call religiosity. We love our religions. So to the point where we love the afterlife more than this life. It's almost like we've been promised so much about the afterlife that we almost discount this life. You know what? I'm just going to die and I'm guaranteed to go to, I'm not even sure how you're guaranteed to go to heaven, but I know you're guaranteed this life if you're alive. So protect this life that you have. And yeah, if you get another life after that, well and good, but you only are going to live once. So there are all those things that, yes, we absolutely have to talk at length. And I thank you, Dakika, for the platform to talk about these things. And I think it should spark conversation. I don't think it should stop here. People should go on in their groups and talk about these things. But there are a couple of truths that we, again, because of our history, we tend to kind of give ourselves a pass. It's the same as Tanzania saying, oh, it's because we were colonized. That was 60 years ago. So you can always come up with an excuse, but the issue is fine. So we got colonized. The other countries also got colonized for however many years, right? So we have to, there's both. So the answer is always and. So everything is true, but the issue is what are you going to do? So I'm saying, yeah, it's true that we were slaves. It is true that there was a Tuskegee. It's true that Black people are shot more than like white people. It is also true that COVID kills Black people more than white people. So all of these are true. So just don't take one piece of information and say, well, because of this, I'm going to not accept this other thing, which is also true. So it's that sort of dichotomy, but it's fully understood and I completely sympathize with it. And the reason I keep yapping about is because I know I'm not going to reach everyone. And what I say may resonate with some, it may not resonate with some, but Edna may say something and that could be enough to get somebody to get vaccinated. Aika may say something and that will be enough to get somebody vaccinated.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frank. I brought that intentionally so that I like the answers that you brought out. So it's kind of even given people even now more clear understanding. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for it's a major challenge, and I think really the challenge here is learning, and that's really been my cry for Tanzania is that we are missing the opportunity to learn. It's not even the people dying, it's the fact that we are refusing to learn. And therefore, we're also teaching our children not to learn. So forget about the older people dying. We're teaching our kids that the rest of the world is behaving. You guys don't have to behave because we don't care. So it just has so many layers in there that are way beyond the politics. And I'm really hoping that in the next couple of weeks, we will find some resolution to this impasse. For those who are Tanzanian, we very much welcome you to Dakota. I'm sure Kwame is going to talk more about that. We are really trying to get our diaspora educated. We're trying to get our diaspora mobilized so they also get protected and they get reminded that, you know, the vaccine, when it comes out, I hope Tanzanian diaspora will be on the front line of getting vaccinated. If anything, just to show our compatriots at home that we are not taking for granted the privileges that we have. So that would be really, really tragic that if you are a diaspora here, you have the vaccine available to you, you don't get vaccinated, and then you die. And then we have to kind of like, you know, put all this money to send you home or, you know, bury you. Meanwhile, you just didn't follow, you didn't take advantage of the privileges you have. You're here and you can vote, you don't vote. You're here, you have freedom of speech, you don't speak. I'm like, people at home have a consequence if they speak. You know, if they speak, somebody's gonna come after them. You know, we're lucky to be here. We can speak, at least for now. So far, nobody's really been knocking on my door, whatever. And even if they do, I still have a little bit of a recourse. I can call 911, expect somebody to come, or at least follow up on my dead body, whatever it is. So we have privileges, okay? We have privileges, and now we have a privilege for life, right? I can tell you that people in Dar who will kill to have access to a vaccine. Literally, they would do anything to have the access that we have. So I think we just have to kind of understand that. And if there are any questions, please tag me on Twitter so we can answer those questions, because they tend to be the same questions that everybody is wondering about. And no question is too small. And so we will try to answer it in the best way possible. If it's really mischief, we may answer with mischief as well. So basically, you know, people are kind of poking with random misinformation. We kind of try to expose it as well. But honestly, if people have honest questions about that are medical, that are health related, Mathalan, the ones about pregnancy, about comorbidities, genuine questions, infertility, whatever, like, you know, chances of, like, you know, conception, and like things that are genuine, that are bothering you. I think those are fair, and it's our responsibility to answer them and so forth. So I think, like, let's keep the conversation going. I don't want to tire everyone, and thank you, Dakika, for the opportunity. Asante.
So would you mind if I send you these questions and then you respond back? I have some questions on the chat right now. I don't know how you want to
sure.
take it.
Is it something that we haven't covered yet? I thought
I know you've covered a lot, but there's some, I think. Is it true that there are two types of vaccines, one made only for African countries and you know, vice versa? And then why vaccine why the vaccine we receive all, starting by white medical staff, will select me to kill me? Was that a question, Mama Teresa, or was
maybe that was a comment?
I'm trying to say, like, I don't think if they start with the medical staff and then 90% they're white, they are rushing to get it. Why if I'm African, I get it, it can kill me. And I don't think America will kill all the staff, medical staff. Starting will do a vaccine to start by his medical, to kill his medical staff. And when we'll bring the sick people. So why me, I will start to be afraid of that vaccine that our provider are getting. You know, all of them, they go to those vaccines.
So, now that's a very good point, and I think that's a very good rebuttal. And I think it's a very fair point, and that's why you'll see many medical people were taking pictures of themselves getting the shots to kind of send that message that we are getting it first. So don't think that, you know, we are using you as guinea pigs. Like, the Tuskegee study has been reversed. It's like we are going first, and so you can't say that. And people literally could not wait. Like, we could not wait to get our first and second dose. Like, people want to get vaccinated as soon as possible. I mean, so hopefully, you know, we can go back to our normal lives. I think the best way is to share the video and maybe allow people to communicate via Twitter or any other platform. are more active on Twitter, so I'm more likely to see the questions there. We've posted several examples. I think on my Twitter also we have the proning video. I think that to me is could be life-saving for somebody at home. So I think in places where we don't have oxygen, we don't have a pulse oximeter, I think at least knowing about proning could go a long way to really help somebody there. And certainly don't do Yungu if you're getting moderate COVID. So stuff like that. So yeah.
Thank you. Would you mind leaving your Twitter handles on the chat so everybody can have it? Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask if
ningependa nichangie kidogo.
Can I ask at the end of March or April if you can be available again to come back and give us a summary? This is really because we have a lot of leaders, African leaders who follow this kind of training. If at the end of beginning of April, you can be available, if you can put it in your calendar, it's really, it helps us to kind of teach our community members. We are from different countries here, and we must follow Tanzania. What Tanzania said, especially for Congolese, we follow. So when you are from Tanzania and you are talking about this, it's really impacted our community member the way to think about this. Thank you so much.
Watu wangu wa DRC, Lubumbashi, Congo. Mamuti ya Congo, mnafuata Tanzania. Yeah, Tanzania is crazy right now. You need to fix Tanzania before you can follow Tanzania. Tanzania is a little bit difficult. But again, we're working together to educate each other. Again, it's about opportunity. It's always about opportunity. There's an opportunity for us to kind of like, switch the narrative. It doesn't really have to be this way. And I am very hopeful that if everybody pulls together, well, we will reach the decision makers, and they could be just plain politics, because right now, even if they agreed with vaccine, there is no vaccine imminent coming in the country. So they might say, hey, let's just run the politics for another couple of months until the vaccine arrives, and then, oh, we changed our mind. And the vaccine just came. So, so I think, it could be a little bit of that, but there's a lot of miseducation. It's much more difficult to change people once you give them misinformation. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It's easier to teach people the right thing from the beginning. But if we're starting with misinformation, then you need to spend a lot of energy re-educating people, which is difficult. Dakika, naomba unikatiza, because we could talk here like all day.
I know. So it's a yes, you're coming back end of March or early April to Mama Teresa's.
We can just look into the calendar and let me know the specific dates. We really, it's a public service, and if there's any platform to speak, we are more than happy to. It's the least we can do. And I hope that at that time, all of you will have access to vaccines. We really feel in the next, by mid-March, I think we should be getting to more than 100 million Americans are getting vaccines. So by that time, it should be opening to the general population. And yes, I think we should launch a campaign to get as many of our people as possible vaccinated. I think that would be a very good goal.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I don't know. I can't thank you enough. I know you're a very busy person. It was hard actually to get a hold of you. And special thank you to Kwame, who is going to talk next about the Dakika. I don't know what news he has for us Tanzanian in diaspora. I'm looking forward to hear from him. So if Kwame, you're available, just jump in. We want to hear from you. Thank you.
Asante sana Dakika.
Asanteni sana. Sasa sijui niingie Kiingereza au Kiswahili.
Vyovyote tu.
Okay. Sitachukua muda sana mwingi. Nataka kuwashukuru wote kwa kuweza kujumuisha sisi. Mimi naitwa Kwame Kinabo, ndo bodi mzamini wa Dakika, which is Council of Tanzania Diaspora. We've been in kwenye taasisi almost 13 years. Basically, kama unavyoona, Dr. Minja ndio presidenti wa sasa hivi wa Dakika, na one of the events ambazo za Dakika tunafanya ni jumuiya kwa ujumla kuweza kuelimishana, tuweza kuweza government ya Tanzania na Marekani tuweze kuendesha gurudumu la maendeleo kwenda mbele, na vile vile kwenye uraia pacha au special status ambayo tunashirikia sasa hivi. And one of the things about diaspora will bring, kama you guys want to join, we'll be happy to have you. Ni kwamba tunakuwa na kongamano la kila mwaka ambayo tunaleta viongozi wa serikali ya Tanzania na hapa Marekani kuongea kuhusu uchumi, siasa na uwekezaji. Na vile vile tuna scholarship, we always give 2 scholarship for students, twice, once a year. I can send you the website ambayo ina more information about it. And again, karibuni sana. Na kwa Kiswahili COVID-19 inaitwa uviko 19.
What? Okay, ngoja niweke hapa kwenye chat. Uviko
19.
Okay, 19. Sawa. Sijui asante Kwame, asante sana Kwame. Sijui kama umemaliza na kama kuna mwenye swali kuhusu chochote Kwame amesema. Okay. Kwame amesema COVID-19 inaitwa uviko 19. Kwa Kiswahili inaitwa uviko. COVID ni uviko kwa Kiswahili. So for all you interpreters, Swahili, English interpreter, you should have that uviko. Thank you. So now it's 3:16. We are going to wrap up. I don't know if Mama Teresa or anyone wants to say anything just to wrap up, and then Anastasia will take us through our evaluation, which is our last part.
I think, Frank, you have something to say for a few minutes?
Asante, yeah. Yes. Aika nashukuru. Mimi nilikuwa naomba tu kwamba nitoe kama request kwa wote ambao tumehudhuria hii elimu, maana tumepata elimu ya kutosha.
Yeah.
Ambao, if we can all choose to be a voice for our communities, our families back home, then, spend 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes to talk to one of your family members or your friend. Kwa sababu bila hivyo kwa kweli tutapoteza watu wengi sana. Kama sasa hivi Tanzania, kama tutachukua actions kuwasaidia wale ambao hawawezi kupata elimu, tutapoteza watu wengi sana. Kwa hiyo I also request for AFO, if AFO you'll be willing to share with us the link of this recording today so that we can also share to our own media, just to support and help our families back home, kwa sababu tutapoteza watu wengi sana.
Okay,
yes.
Go ahead, Mama Lucy.
Mama Lucy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, avant de finir, je voulais seulement donner le petit summary de le docteur quand il a parlé sur l'hésitation qui se trouve dans la communauté. C'est quelque chose que je voulais vraiment partager. Et nous avons beaucoup d'histoires de vaccins dans le passé. Et c'est sur ces bases de ces vaccins-là que notre communauté est un peu réticente. Ils pensent qu'on peut les utiliser comme les cobayes des expériences. Et il y en a qui hésitent. L'hésitation est vraiment, elle est la palpable, plus tangible. Et maintenant, le docteur a parlé un peu de quelque chose dont je voulais vraiment transmettre le message au bien-aimé. Bon, il dit que cette maladie est nouvelle. S'il y a eu des anciennes maladies, là, comme les anciens vaccins, là, mais cette maladie est nouvelle, elle a commencé simplement en 2019. Tu peux ne pas accepter, tu peux ne pas prendre le vaccin. En Amérique, on ne force pas les gens. Mais il a souligné, il a dit, le problème en est que quand tu refuses, quand tu vas tomber malade ou tu vas mourir, dès on te retrouvera à l'hôpital, ça sera un grand problème. Bon, ça, on se demande pourquoi les médecins et les infirmiers prennent ces vaccins. C'est une question à rechercher et puis une question à se poser. Pourquoi les médecins même ils prennent? Donc, c'est la question que je peux laisser à la communauté, une question de méditation. Moi, je remercie tous les bien-aimés qui ont écouté cette session. vraiment, l'habilité d'apprendre doit être notre objectif. Personne ne connaît ce que nous faisons, mais la situation est là. Il faut prendre le temps d'étudier, d'observer. On ne sait pas ce que cela arrivera dans l'avenir. Bonne chance à tout le monde. Courage. Merci.
Okay. We will give to Dr. Kokuvi 1 minute to talk to if Dr. Kokuvi from Eugene, you have something to say quickly before they close? Dr. Kokuvi. Yeah. Okay.
With my computer, that's why.
Yeah.
I have some difficulty with my computer, and that's why you couldn't hear me today.
Okay. You have a
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone. You know, it is a little bit, I don't know how to say that, you know, only one in Africa is put in an exception way. You know, in Tanzania, I watched a video where the president of Tanzania was, you know, people were dancing somewhere and he just, you know, show up in the group and then with his bodyguard or whatever, and then he took over the drums and then he started, you know, playing the drum in public, and no one wore a mask. And it was, I don't know, I was very astonished, you know, to watch that video. But people on the image felt very comfortable because maybe as it has been the traditional remedies or they trust God or whatever, but we have to send a message back home to countries now to start learning about this new disease. COVID-19 is a new disease, as Dr. Frank has.
We lost you, I think.
Okay. So I think yenye mimi nataka kumaliza ni kusema asante sana. Tulikuwa na ndugu kutoka Florida, ndugu Joseph Belanila. Ndugu Joseph Belanila, ungali pale? Joseph Belanila, I think he's gone. So asante sana kwa kikundi.
Ndio ningali hapa.
Yeah, you have something to say quickly before they stop. Yeah, you have something to say.
Yes. Moi aussi, je remercie pour cette rencontre. Et je souhaiterais qu'on puisse. Okay. Ninashukuru sana kwa mkutano huu na hasa mafunzo ambayo tumeyapokea, sababu yalikuwa naleta utata hata ndani ya kichwa na kanisa. Hata mimi kama vile nilikuwa muuguzi zamani na watu wengi wananiuliza maswali kuhusu COVID sasa yenye ilitokea, lakini kupitia mafunzo haya tunapata leo imenipatia zingine silaha za kuwa na wapatia wakati wananipiga maswali kama na hayo walinipiga mbeleni. Sababu inaleta utata sana kati ya watu. Kuna wale wanasema kwa nini nyinyi hamchanjwe? Kwa nini sisi tuchanjwe? Kwa nini hata hiyo Tanzania ndio inaleta watu wote wanaelekezea macho huko. Kwa nini nyinyi mnatusumbua na hiyo, na huko Tanzania ni nchi mzima haifanyi kitu? Nashukuru sana kwa hiyo. Ndio maana hata nilituma ile swali yangu kusema kuna hiyo vaccine Afrika na yenye hata niliona video na ilikuwa journaliste ni kwa media. Ilikuwa ya taifa mzima wanasikiliza hiyo taarifa. Nashukuru kabisa. Ningependelea sana tukuwe nafuata kama na mambo vitu kama na hivi, tualike wengi kusudi na sisi tupate kile kitu tunaweza ongea kwa watu.
Sasa mjitayarishe mwezi wa 3. Mwisho wa mwezi wa 3 mjitayarishe, tutawaita tena.
Asante sana. Hiyo tunapenda sana kitu kama na hii. Mambo mengi hata hiyo ukovi 19 naisikilia hapa. Mimi ndo nitafanya sasa kampeni kwenda nauliza maswali waniambie kwa Kiswahili, hata wale Waswahili wa ndani hawatajua. Asante sana, nashukuru.
Karibu sana. Tumebakiza dakika chache. I know some people wants to leave. Tumebakiza dakika chache sana just to wind up, to fanye evaluation, and then tukutane next time March. Maybe March we'll be able to meet up. For those Nigerians, I'm so sorry. Oh, West Africans who speak only English, not French and Swahili, I'm so sorry. We'll try to have just a series for the English speakers only next time, and then have the Swahili and French together. How about that?
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a wonderful way of doing it. Yeah, so that we can reach everyone and make everyone understand.
Yeah.
So now I think, what can I say? What a wonderful session. We've really learned a lot, and I think this was very, very important. I'm not the way I was when we started. I've learned so many new things, and I hope you too are gonna say the same. I'm gonna just ask you to tell us what your thoughts were or are about the meeting. If you have anything you need to say, or how we would have done our meeting to make it better, we'll give you like, let's say 2 minutes for you to share and tell us how you want us to do our meetings, or what you think about how our meeting went today. So the floor is yours if you want to ask or give us a comment.
Mimi naomba kuongea, kwa nitaongea Kiswahili, mnisamee. Nilikuwa nasema hivi, labda kwa mkutano mwingine ambao utakapokuja, kama tungekuwa tuna interpreter, kwamba watu wanachagua lugha ya kusikiliza. Kwa yule msemaji anaongea Kiingereza, halafu tunakuwa watu wanachagua lugha. Kwa hiyo kama wewe ni mtu wa Kiswahili, yule interpreter anakuwa connected kule, kama ni Kifaransa anakuwa connected. Kwa hiyo haicheleweshi.
Asante sana. Tume note hiyo chini na tutaweza kufanya, tuone kama tutaweza kufanya vile umesema, na nafikiria tukifanya hivyo itawezekana. Asante Rahel. So Rahel was asking if we could we could have an interpreter for the languages, like which they choose the interpreter to be listening to. And I think it's gonna be possible, and it's gonna help us a lot in also making sure that everybody is understanding what the speaker is talking about. So we'll put that into consideration. Thank you. If there's anyone else. So Haika, I think.
Awesome session. Asante sana.
Asante.
Asante.
Yeah, I just want to share one more thing before we leave. Thank you everyone for your patience, for showing up. I know you have a lot to do in your program for Saturday. Some maybe they're at work, some at home, but you spare this minute just to come and listen to all the speakers that we had today. Just to add, we have a newsletter at R4. So if you want to sign up for oncoming listening sessions that we have, that would be great. In that way, you get that ahead of time before even we share the flyers. I'm gonna put the link on the chat here for everyone. Ahead of time. Kwa wale ambao wanaongea Kiswahili, kama mnataka kufuatilia mazungumzo yetu mengine yajayo, ni vizuri mkajiandikisha kwenye gazeti letu la kionline au kimtandaoni newsletter, na kwa njia hiyo unaweza ukaona session nyingine ambazo zinakuja au mafunzo mengine yanakuja. Inakuwa rahisi kwako kuweza kutufuatilia. Nimeweka link kwenye sehemu ya message hapo, kama utaweza fuatilia hiyo link alafu ujaze, ukishaweka hizo information zako, then baadaye utakuwa unapokea yanayofuata kwenye shirika letu. Again, asanteni sana. Hivi ni 9:30, 3:30 p.m. na tunaenda kusema bye bye.
Yeah, asanteni sana, tunashukuru kuwa na nyinyi.
Ngojea tukamate hiyo ngojea tukamate malink. Kama tuikamate itapotea kabisa.
Ya, kuna linki kama 3 hivi zipo. Kuna hiyo ya Dakika, kuna hiyo ya newsletter ya kwetu ya AFO. Tafadhalini sana, jitahidi.
Ni hiyo kuwapatia wakati ya kuichukua.
Okay.
Kwa ni chat, mukakata na machati napotea. Mara moja. Yeah. Oh, let's see the other one. Okay. Asanti, ilikuwa vizuri sana. Mungu awabariki. Weekend njema. Kanisani tuombeane. Tuombee kabisa hii kikundi, tuende pamoja, tukuwe na mmoja. Watu wa Florida karibu, watu wa Kokuvi.
Tulikuwa pia na Canada.
Okay. Et aussi, on était avec Selem, Selem for Refugee, et aussi United Congolese. Nadhani kuko wamoja wa United Congolese ya Oregon, wenye walikuwa pamoja na sisi. Alors, merci beaucoup pour tout le monde, et que Dieu vous bénisse.
Yeah.
Ok, à bientôt. Merci Aïka, merci Anastasia.
Bye bye. Que Dieu nous bénisse.
Yeah.
Aussi comme
que Dieu nous bénisse.
Que Dieu vous bénisse aussi. Bonne nuit.
Merci.
Asante sana.
Waliochukua na sisi kutoka Canada pia.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, tulikuwa na pia kutoka Canada.
Bado yupo?
Ni kama yuko kusai.
Ilikuwa mama?
Ilikuwa mama, alikuwa na
mimi nilimuita. Sikujua kama tulikuwa na jana. Na ilikuwa mama mwenye anatoka Canada, alikuwa kwa phone, ndiyo nakumbuka.
Yeah.
Na karibu kabisa. Okay, bonne nuit.
All right.
Pareillement, merci.
Saluez tout le monde là à Floride.
Je vais le faire, merci beaucoup. Merci.
Je serai avec vous autres bientôt encore. Hein?
Oui, merci, merci. Oui, je comprends. Ok. C'est bien.